The Devil's Soul, Book 2, Chapter 11, Section 5, Upper Darby, 2004. The argument erupted in Cindy's small apartment, their voices bouncing off the minimalist, undecorated walls. You think you can just walk in here like nothing happened? Her face flushed. Eli stood by the door, arms crossed, his expression defiant, indifferent. I don't owe you a damn thing. You knew who I was. Are you for real? You fight with me for 2 weeks, and now you're acting like I'm the problem? Eli sighed, running a hand through his hair. He seemed to hate these moments, the unraveling of what had been effortless once. Look, I'm not good at this, at relationships, or whatever you want to call it. I didn't promise you no walk in the park. Her laugh was bitter. You're unbelievable. You think you can just charm your way out of everything, only to blow up again. Eli, people get tired of your bullshit. For a moment, her words hung there in the air like the acrid smoke of various substances that had been smoked there. These words may be cutting and maybe doing so deeper than he had expected. But then he seemed to shake them off, retreating behind an armor he had perfected. Believe what you want, he said, turning towards the door. I'm out of here, like a meteor. Chapter 11, Section 6, Dayton, Ohio, 1973. Up on a roof, Dayton looked very different. I could see the appeal of high places, and Paul's, oh my gosh, Midwest, all shucks ability to be amazed was shown on his ruddy face, squinting to take in the distance. A yearning invoked, but also reflexively sated, maybe. The roofing job with his uncle barely held attention. Instead, he daydreamed out into the everything. Water towers, 100-foot trees, the stinking highways, and the square dominance of a downtown. Higher rising buildings, the space between the tops of trees and the buildings, a different world seen from the top of a 3-story home. Faith healing, crop circles, demons, and little green spacemen. Paul stood in front of rapt but small audiences, laying his hands a half-inch over the shoulders of a woman with unnamed complaints. His blue eyes turned grayer, dilating in the overcast daylight. Some focus, fixedness, seeing into the helix-like fifth dimension tangled up in thin air. But one can't see the higher dimensions, and so his boyish imagining took hold, eating hot dogs and beans after the affair was over. Too greedy, with his mouth ravenous, catching himself and slowing and wiping a corner of his clean-shaven face, speaking with an elder of his whose daughter he had healed, about planting churches and overseas field work in the plain, square, and fair demeanor of the good American. Like the perfectly apportioned, innocent, yellow-flecked expanses of green seen in every direction, spreading as far as eyes might see, cornbread, straw-haired, pale, blood-faced, good old boy. I saw Paul linger a little too long on the bosom of the young lady, a crystal of sweat on another corner of his face, the rubbery meat just consumed like half-flaccid penis textures. Up on a roof, he breathed an air untainted by the flatulence and the salt stickiness of closeted onanism above and beyond it all. Angels we have heard on high, trees broccoli mushrooming playfully above the cacophonous colors of good homes, good houses, dutiful, undismal, undegrading, meaning endowed lives, screaming into being in white hospitals, laid down silent in brown graveyards, gray markers etched seriously absurdly, attempting to battle the oblivion of future memory. The dust in the corner of the young lady's room as Paul lay in her bed was where his eyes wandered towards, his heartbeat slowing and his anatomy reversing its engorgement as he excused himself from the tryst, climbing back out the window he came in through, unpreacher-like, on a Sunday evening around 9:45 p.m. Chapter 11, Section 7, Windber, PA, 1969. The wind whined, whipped, and whispered, blowing the glowing snow to and fro. Susan picked her way past the 2 tall drifts, finding alleys and channels in her midst, the sting of the chill like eyebrows being plucked, and out of her way some of the snow seemed to be flung. She worked 3 to 11 at the 712 store before they got sued and became the no-name Convenience Mart, almost every day stamping her way home up the hill to her small apartment converted from a barn on land her relatives owned. She felt her aloneness as a marker, alone like a shimmering new coin in a pile of green tree ones and foliage-colored fives. Her store got frequented by the truckers and hard-luckers coming east from Johnstown, but suffered from the shrink of shoplifting. That very night she had had to expel a tough-jawed young man for pilfering candy bars, a comb, and deodorant. Some thieves got away with theft on her shifts. She had bad eyes but good hands and a good demeanor, which is why they kept her. In this instance, she had simply offered an open palm for the prematurely gray guy to deposit his loot and had pointed a finger sadly to the door. It took too long for the country cops to meander over anyway, and by the time they arrived, most thieves would be gone. This shoplifter idled out with little apparent bitterness, unlike other lifters she pinched with their arrogant auras and sneering snouts. She normally, on non-blizzard days, engaged in her favorite pastime, an artistic-type obsession, analogous to most people's cigarettes or candy or coffee, which was to imagine herself a microscope blowing up the intricate superimposed patterns of what she thought was the epitome of the unique, a snowflake laying over a fingerprint. This habit seemed a sustaining motif, a visual solace in a world that was so illuminated, gleaming, and teeming. Her way of seeing, or was it her vision? Most likely way of seeing. Neurodivergence, not a diagnosable condition at that time, distorted, so she reported that color and the shine of things was accentuated. 18 years old, she had lived alone since graduating high school, though her family wasn't far away, this being a test run, so to speak, a trial run of independent living before deciding on an occupation, or possibly, though unlikely due to the finances, college. She also was given custody of the family cat and her old dog Lester, who she called Luster, to both keep her company and to see if she could take care of them. Other than Molly, another cashier, she really only talked to the animals. Visits home just down the road were awkward. She missed her dad, but her mom seemed intent on using a coldness to drive her away toward independence. Dominic sometimes came by and they went on walks with the dog, but since winter had come, this hadn't happened. Susan really couldn't think of things to do or say in social situations and had particular problems with the opposite sex. Attracted to women's lib, as they called it, she preferred jeans to dresses and eschewed makeup. She had a pretty, delicate face with fierce eyes and a serious frown. Could be giggly when comfortable, childlike, but she was rarely comfortable in company. Once she had caved into the pressure of a young man who worked at the bank up the road, who came in on evenings for coffee after long days of calculations and dealings in credit, who had softly asked her to accompany him on a sophisticated soiree in the city. It was hardly sophisticated, just a country club event with wine and cheese, but as high class as anything this far east of Pittsburgh she had seen. But she learned a lesson that night. All things men bring, their lavish, flowers, clothes, wine, come with an implicit goal that is savage. She kept her honor despite his fumbling efforts, half drunk in his car after the event, and stopped answering his calls. The hot aroma of wine, the soft texture of the venue's various furnishings, even restroom towels, the cool burn of the cityish air flowing by while they drove, the orchard odors and the perfumed places they played at poshness were a contrast to his dry lips, tepid fingers, and eyes cold with drink. Her passion, if any, really existed, unlatent at this time, popped like seagulls eating Alka-Seltzer. She had a habit of fixating. When she heard the urban, or rural, legend about birds consuming sour stomach remedies and literally being blown apart, she had found it hard to shake the image, and had thought about the frailty of these poor creatures and the unfairness of this frailty. Something about the mood with the branch manager, some queer scent vaguely spread across her aura, making her think of seashores she hadn't yet ever visited, and then to the birds and their reputed fate when eating this Alka-Seltzer. And so she was alone, but somehow, in this semi-delusion, hermits share, unique in this solitude. Chapter 11, Section 8, Chicago, early 1970.